Oh, for the good old days when the accepted mantra was spare the rod, spoil the child, and a jolly good thrashing was considered a necessary part of education. You can just hear the kids of today begging to be flogged for their own good. It was the fundamental approach to schooling in Australia as elsewhere, and it's coming back, at least in an instructive way, in Sydney's rapidly expanding northwest. The Rouse Hill School, built in 1888, has been restored to its original condition and has emerged as a new teaching tool about the old. Jeff Sims reports from the late 19th century.
The insolence of that child. I was forced to give him 2 strokes of the cane.
Miss Fox may have been a meanie, at least by today's standards, though strict is probably the way her contemporaries would have seen her.
Yes, Miss Fox.
Like lambs to the slaughter, the children of this rural neighbourhood of Rouse Hill came to enjoy or endure the privilege of an education many other children in remoter communities were denied.
Good morning to you all.
Good morning, Miss Fox.
I'm pleased to see you have all made it this morning and that you didn't have to stay and work on the farm. Everybody in their lines, girls and boys. Boys, follow behind the girls.
It's just like yesteryear, or even further back than most of us can remember, though the school was still in use until only 7 years ago.
What we've been able to do is to restore that, to take it back to its 19th century appearance, to recreate the whole historic school interior with the stuffed animals, with the inkwells, with the pens. And what we can do now is give modern children that Victorian school experience.
Queen Vic may have been amused, but it could also be music to a Republican's ears. Looking down, as some believe the erstwhile Queen is doing, possibly wincing, you can see in the 21st century that Rouse Hill is pretty much the way it was in the 19th, despite the ever-increasing encroachment of Sydney's suburban sprawl.
Just behind you is Sydney's fastest growing area. Something like a third of New South Wales primary children now live out here. This is where the families are. 5 or 10 years ago, it was part of the countryside. Today, it's part of Sydney.
Retaining such a big expanse of land and its buildings as it all was, and keeping it away from the developers, will allow visiting students from current schools far and wide to experience a little of how life used to be. It's not exactly the theme park that old Sydney town on the Central Coast used to be, but a bit of costume drama doesn't go astray. It leaves the kids spellbound.
H-I-L-T, hilt.
H-I-L-T, hilt.
And there's a whole new demand for kids to come and see animals, to see farm life. We've got the wonderful farm buildings surviving as well as the house here, and we think that's going to be an absolutely great experience for more and more school children.
It's a bit of a change from the real thing. Students from the modern-day Rouse Hill Public School nearby are sitting in for their 19th century counterparts, and they're terrific to a T.
T-H-I-N-C.
But discipline is thorough, with a th.
I think I heard a...
That will never do.
After me, T-H-I-N-C.
Outside, the 21st century is showing some muscle, readying the school grounds for their new lease on life. Though it's not all down to modern machinery. A teaching amphitheatre may be new, but it's being made squeaky clean in accordance with 19th century morality. And you know where that's leading.
Cleanliness is next to godliness.
Of course. From the time Richard Rouse, the superintendent of works, built the house in the early 19th century, a tall-pike road ran through to become the Windsor Road. The school came 70 years later on the other side of the road, which became a thundering highway. Just a few years ago, this was the main road, just one lane each way. All that traffic down there came through here. Then the bypass went around the school. The cutting was raised to its original slope on the hillside by 3 or 4 metres, and the gravel road that Macquarie built in 1813 was reinstated. The Rouse House itself is run as a museum by the Historic Houses Trust. And what's history without name-dropping?
And the man standing next to him with his hand on his heart is Banjo Patterson.
The special thing about Rouse Hill House is it's Australia's oldest garden, and it's the house in Australia that's probably been occupied continuously by the same family for the longest period. So that's fantastic in its own right.
That's one way of putting it. After an inheritance dispute 30 years ago, one side of the family lived upstairs, the other downstairs. They weren't on talking terms.
I think, to put it crudely, it has been a living hell. I'm afraid at this stage there is no way.
I think that the ideologies and the temperaments of the two families are so diametrically opposed there is no possible way we could ever get on.
Those downstairs wanted the government to resume the property, to buy them out. Those upstairs wanted to hang on, hang in there and hang the expense.
They're asking me, the government, to give up my right to live in my family's home.
The government won. The house went into public hands after a very public dispute, no matter how politely that was expressed.
You know, if when people live in communities, you don't always say good day to people.
And it was a shattering experience, really.
The bailiff simply came and turfed you out?
Yes, 5 of them.
It mightn't be billed as a ghost house, preserved in its state of neglect. But if you saw an apparition, you mightn't be surprised.
Just as we were practising earlier.
That's where we came in, reliving history, as school children will be doing every day here, under the demanding eye of the formidable Miss Fox.
Are you all prepared to move on to the next lesson?
Yes, Miss Fox.